Hi, I'm James P. Friel.
And I'm Dean Holland. It's time to fasten your seatbelts, boys and girls.
That's right. If you're an entrepreneur who's wanting to take your business to the next level and have a bit of fun while getting cutting-edge advice on your business, marketing, and sales, welcome to Just the Tips, arguably the best podcast in the entire world. I guess that's good, right?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right. That was easy. That was the easiest thing we did all day.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Just the Tips. This is your host, James P. Friel. I am thrilled that you guys are here with us today. We have an incredibly awesome show lined up for you. If you've ever struggled with anything marketing, we're going to be talking with one of the secret weapons of the marketing world, somebody who even the best marketing experts turn to when they have challenges in their own marketing. Guys, just a genius. We're honored to have him here. And so we're going to dig into that in just a minute. So if you want to create the perfect marketing campaign, stay tuned for today's episode. In the meantime, I see him coming in, just cresting the horizon, riding into the studio. He just jumped off the horse. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the studio, the one, the only bearded wonder from the United Kingdom, Mr. Dean Holland.
There we go. We made it. We're in.
Yeah. You're in. I feel like the trumpets were a little bit late today.
I just staggered the entrance there.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's all right. So how's it going, man?
My friend? How are you doing?
I'm awesome. I'm pretty good. I'm pumped for today's show.
Oh, you and me both. This is going to be one of those shows that I think just packs the value. And like you said, anybody that's got anything around marketing, they're struggling with lacking the clarity. I think especially at this time of year, right? We're in the fourth quarter of the year. There's lots of stuff already happening in the world. We've spoken in the past about, Black Friday. We've obviously got the holiday season coming up and even the US election, which is going to impact certain things in marketing. So no doubt we can unpack a lot of great stuff here today.
Yeah. So without further ado, we're going to welcome to the show, Mr. Todd Brown, the guy that even the legends turn to help them with their marketing campaigns. Somebody that I've learned a ton about marketing from. Todd, we're super excited to have you here, man.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Actually, when you were talking about me earlier, I was like, oh, wow, cool. Sounds like they have an amazing marketer on the show with me today. I'm super excited to listen to that dude because he sounds really smart. You set the bar high.
Right.
I'm sure I'm going to shoot right below it.
No, I doubt that. No. But we do have the fourth guest coming in just a minute. The guy I was actually referring to.
Todd looks like you're also the record holder for most marketing books owned.
Yeah. That's a green screen. Behind there, I have snacks and doodles.
Right. Yeah. No, that's good. It keeps up the whole facade. So, totally. So we titled this show today, Creating the Perfect Marketing Campaign. And I think marketing is one of those things that people who don't understand it look at it and it seems like magic. And somebody like you has gone so deep in all the different facets of marketing, from creating offers to writing copy to positioning to like all these different things that you've taken the mystery out of it. And you've got such a formulaic, methodical approach to marketing that it's like, oh, wow. Anybody can be a good marketer if they know what they're doing and they know how to ask the right questions. And I think that's that's something that not a lot of people have. And so just to kind of kick things off before we get into the tips, obviously this show's called Just the Tips, so we want a lot of tips. But how did you get into marketing? Like, where did this entrepreneur bug come from, and what was like the impetus for you?
Yeah, so I was always entrepreneurial. I mean, when I was a kid, I was always like in junior high school or whatever. I was selling candy until they flagged me and you're not allowed to do that. Then I was washing cars, I was a total knucklehead in school. So I wasn't a good student. A lot of that was really because I just didn't, I thought it was cool to not be a good student, like an idiot,
Right.
And so I was always entrepreneurial, but I didn't know anything about anything related to marketing, advertising, selling. I was working for a health club company. Ironically, I went to college. So after I graduated from high school, barely, I couldn't get accepted to any college. I went to community school. It took me 3 years to get a 2-year degree, which I then used to transfer over to a state school in New Jersey to complete my degree. It took me another 3 years to get a degree, right, which was in nutrition of all things. And so I ended up going to work for a health club company that was kind of starting a growing chain. While there, I was put in charge of a growing department, and I got in the mail a direct response postcard. Now, I had never seen direct response. Like I didn't know anything about anything. Like I said, I didn't know, I thought advertising, marketing, selling, all the same thing. Got this postcard. The dude at the time was selling a like a $300 training program. And so I took the postcard to my boss and I said, hey, can I buy this and expense it? He said, yeah, got it. It was my first exposure to direct response. I was enamored with this idea of being able to kind of put together a complete presentation that could then be, duplicated over and over and over, automatically delivered to folks. I immediately called this dude, asked him, who did you learn from? He said, Dan Kennedy. And that was the whole that spiral that just was out of control after that. And so that was it. I started immediately using what it is that I learned or was learning from that dude in the health club company. I ended up kind of refining some stuff, playing with some stuff. Over time, I decided after 2 years of using this and growing my department like crazy, I decided that I was going to share the stuff that I had learned in these health clubs with other massage therapists that were working with health clubs, had their own practices, and they needed help. And that was my entrance into the world of info publishing almost 2 decades ago. And so it's been crazy, man.
That's awesome. I almost thought you were going to say once you learned all that, you went back to selling candy, but you were bypass the system so that nobody
feverishly, right? I would stand out in front of the school and wink at the principal. And
yeah, exactly.
But that's not a bad idea. There's an opportunity there that we can talk about.
Yeah, we should explore that after the show. No, that's amazing. So in all of that experience, and you've worked in some enormous campaigns, helped a lot of people with their own campaigns. You've built your own companies. What do you think are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people making when they think about or they approach marketing?
Oof. That's a great question, man. And so we'll go as deep as you want or stay as
let's go. Let's do it.
So, number one, and this is in no particular order, right? Number one, I think that today, most people don't understand the difference between marketing and selling. They don't understand the difference between, right? And that's why you see things you see people talk about sales funnels, marketing funnels. They use those terms and phrases interchangeably, not realizing that selling and marketing are two completely different activities with two completely different objectives. So selling is when you are talking about your product, your features, your advantages, the benefits of your product, when you're talking about price, terms, when you're talking about the offer, maybe when you're talking about your company track record, and that sort of stuff. Selling is what you do when you are talking to a prospect or communicating with a prospect that already knows what they want. They already know that they want your type of product. And now what they really want to know is why yours. Why should I choose your thing over these other options? Meaning that selling is what you do when you're talking to a high awareness level prospect. Marketing is actually all about creating demand for your product, for your service, for your offer before you ever even talk about your product or service. It was Peter Drucker, arguably the greatest management guru ever, who said the objective of marketing is to make selling superfluous, to make selling unnecessary. When marketing is done right, and marketing is really everything that you do and say and show and present to a prospect to lead them to want your thing before you offer them your thing. It's what you do to lead them to want to take advantage of your offer before you ever even talk about your product or service. And what Peter Drucker means by marketing, when done right, makes selling superfluous, is that when marketing is structured correctly, when you recognize that I'm marketing, I'm talking to the prospect and I'm educating the prospect in a way that's leading them to see my thing ultimately as the greatest, the best path to solve their issue. The reason why Peter Drucker said it makes selling superfluous is because you don't have to hardcore sell at that point. You get to present a great offer, and prospects become grateful for the opportunity to take advantage of that offer. So that's the first thing. The first mistake is not realizing that there's a difference between marketing and selling, and you have to be very careful that you don't conflate the two. And that you understand the difference. The second thing that I would say, and there's a lot, so I'm going to try to pick and choose just a couple more, and then we could dive into whatever it is that you want. The second mistake is not realizing that everything that you say and do and show and present in your marketing, even when advertising, which is much more akin to selling, advertising is much more appropriate for higher levels of awareness prospects, but everything has to come from the market. Meaning, as an entrepreneur, as a marketer, you've got to step out of the way. It's not about what you like. It's not about what you want. It's not about what excites you. It's not about what motivates you. It's not about what you know, what you like, what you fear, what you crave. It's not even about what you believe the market should want or need or crave. It's about what they want. It's about what they want, period. And it's about their language. It's about what their emotions, their fears, their concerns, their beliefs, right? All of those things. And so you've got to understand the market. And I think today there are, whether it is, I think, newer entrepreneurs, marketers, they don't understand that. I think the intermediate level entrepreneurs, marketers, I think it's almost become this in one ear, out the other. Like, yeah, I get it. But what they end up doing is they end up saying, I get it. It's all about the market. And then they sit back and they think about, I wonder what the market's thinking, feeling, right? And they're kind of the origin of their, customer avatar, if you would use that phrase, which I'm not a fan of, but if you were to use that, the origin of their customer avatar is really their own head. They're kind of looking at it like, well, if I was them and I wanted to lose weight, what would I want? What would I be afraid of? What would I be concerned with? Right. And that's, that ain't it. The third thing, I'll give just one more after this, which will be quick. The third thing, that I would say is today there is this weird, it's strange to me. There's this weird belief, whether it is unspoken, sometimes spoken, sometimes you could see it in actions. There's this weird belief that the magic in online marketing is in the funnel pages and or the funnel model. Like people think oh, cool, to generate an opt-in, the key is I need an opt-in page. As if I wish it was that simple, please. Right? Like, please. You know what I mean? They think, so the key to increasing average order value is I need an upsell page. Maybe let's make it a video with one click, as if that page with a video with a one-click button is the magic. And they don't understand that, look, it's all about the underlying message. And how does that message resonate with what you know and understand about the market? How tight is it to what it is that they want? How tight is it in terms of in alignment with what they fear, what they're concerned with, what they're craving, what they've tried before and that hasn't worked, what they see as the bad stuff, and and it's all about the message. And at the end of the day, it's like people think they've got a long form sales letter, or let's just say this, they've got a webinar or a VSL and it doesn't convert. And they think it's this weird thing where they're like, I think I'm going to fix it. I'm going to turn it into a webinar.
Right.
And I'm like, why would you think that it doesn't work as a VSL? What do you think? Do you think that there's magic in the webinar framework? right?
Yeah.
Like let's turn here, your hard copy book sucks. Let's turn it into a paperback and see if like that makes it better. Right?
That's
like
a good way of looking at it.
You know, and I hate this, excuse the language, but like it just doesn't, and that's why good campaigns can work regardless of the delivery medium. But like fixing the delivery medium or changing the marketing model, while yes, in some cases it can move things, but you're not going to take a loser and turn it into a home run by changing from a VSL to a webinar. And so that's the mistake in not recognizing that the foundation is in the message, and how much does that message line up with and resonate with the prospect, both emotionally and intellectually. And the final thing that I'll just say, man, very quickly is I don't think I think too many people underestimate the task at hand when it comes to getting people to whip out their credit card online, sight unseen. Like they just saw your ad on Facebook. They don't know you from Adam, clicking on your ad, going over to your right. Like people today are skeptical and they're jaded, and rightly so. Right. And I mean, today, just not with the craziness going on. I just mean like people are getting slammed with ridiculous advertising campaigns. They're hearing all kinds of ridiculous, absurd claims. And I think that people underestimate the task at hand. And so those are the biggies that I would say.
Holy crap. He came out of the cannon. Yeah, like it was just like, that was pure gold right there. You guys should rewind that and listen to that like 5 times before you even move on.
Listen, I'm good at one thing in my life, and that's it. So like I stay in my lane. Ask me about like, tools or, my car or something like that. I've got zero value to offer. Nothing.
Right. Well, that's the power of focus though. Right. Yeah. It's like, I mean, you could go deep and become an expert. It's like, there's the people, jack of all trades, master of none, but hey, let's master something. That's freaking awesome. I think, one of the things that I want to get into then is, okay, so you've got these challenges that people bump up against. And I love what you said about them underestimating the task at hand, because I feel like with some of the tools and things that are available to people, they're like, oh, it's easier now than ever to put up a landing page or an opt-in page or whatever. And Dean and I have talked about this so many times where, people do something and they're like, oh, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it doesn't work. And it's like, well, what do you mean Facebook doesn't work for me? And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, what did you actually do? And usually it's, well, I boosted a post once and I didn't get $1 million in sales. And so it doesn't work. Right.
It's so ridiculous, right? Like I see it all the time. Like when folks come in and they'll be like, direct mail, it doesn't work anymore. Or like, long form copy doesn't work anymore, or whatever, like all this stuff. And I'm just like, when I hear that, I'm like, you're right. Don't do it.
Yeah, that's right.
You're right.
Leave more meat on the bone for the rest.
Brand institutional average, like stick to the, like, here, do this, blow up your logo, just run a logo and that's it. No other information whatsoever. And
no, that's great. Well, that's it, everyone. Just blow up your logo and you'll be good.
That's it. That's the secret. When in doubt, if you're struggling, just blow up your logo and then go from there.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So, all right. So you talked a lot, like one of the things that you hit on in a number of different ways and what you just shared is about messaging, right? And getting the messaging right. And I love what you said about, if you're just trying to do an opt-in, take the hardback and turn it to paperback, it's not going to work. I think that people don't understand the hierarchy of like principles and strategies and tactics. And everybody today is really focused on tactics, and they don't know how to back that up with the right strategy, and even further back, like what's the principle behind this whole thing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like one of your principles is really nailing the messaging, and then you can figure out, well, what's the strategy and then what's the tactic to deploy this out into the world. How do you think about messaging, and how do you create compelling messaging that causes people to move and take action?
Love it. Love that question. So let me just go back for 1 second to what you said, because I think you're really spot on. I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs and marketers out there that are implementing various tactics and they have no clue what the strategy is behind the tactic. And sometimes, if you don't, you can, I've given the example before of how you can implement a tactic that is serving a strategic purpose for one campaign, and another entrepreneur or marketer implements that same tactic and it serves the reverse. Like it damages, right? Like we've seen it, where somebody, below a video has the Facebook comment widget and there's, 2,000 comments on there. And what's that there for? Well, that's there for social proof, right? The fact that, there's something going on here. And so new marketer, new entrepreneur says, oh, I should have the Facebook widget, comments. I should have comments below. They put it on their site. They get 4 comments and they don't realize you now have reverse social proof. Now it looks like no one's here, right? Same tactic. Same tactic, but you're not fulfilling the strategy. And so I think it's so important what you said, and I think it's spot on, that you always understand what is the strategic purpose, what's the objective of what I'm doing. And that includes not only the little tactical add-ons in a campaign on a page, like why is this on a page, but that also includes everything that you say in your messaging. Like, why are you saying this? What is the reason, right? Sometimes I ask clients or students, like, why did you say this? And they're like, I'm not really sure. And I'm like, well, then take it out, right? You have to understand the role that it is playing in the message. So with that, let's kind of jump into the deep end on, so how do I think about creating compelling messages? And I believe you're spot on. At the root of every marketing campaign is obviously a message. There's a message that's being delivered. That message is either good being that it works to drive the prospect to want the offer, or it's not good. It doesn't, or maybe it bores them, or maybe it confuses them, or whatever. It doesn't drive them to buy. And so I'll give you one main core principle that I live by with the messaging and creating a compelling message is this. Today, differentiation in marketing is key. In business is key. What people want to know is what's different. Like, what's different about yours? This whole, and we're going to break this down in just a second. What's different? What's different about yours, like that, and why should I choose it? Like, what's different about yours, right? And so today, there are only 2 core ways to differentiate any product or service. There are only 2 ways. The first way is you differentiate, or 2 effective ways. The first way is you differentiate based on promise, payoff, transformation, result. This is typically like when people talk about the old school USP, unique selling proposition. The unique selling proposition is a unique benefit that only your product or service offers to the market that other competing products and services don't. So if you had a product, and that product offered a benefit, among other benefits potentially, but offered a benefit that none of your competitors were offering, you've got a USP. You've got a point of differentiation. That point of differentiation is this product will give you all these benefits and this one, and nobody else will give you this one. Today, that is, it's rare, especially for the small to mid-sized entrepreneurial business. Typically, you see USPs with true innovations, disruptive products and services, right? Like when you see like Uber, and that sort of thing. But for the average entrepreneur, marketer, very, very difficult to differentiate based on promise, because you have to have a truly innovative or disruptive product. And so the other way, right? The other way, if you're not going to differentiate based on promise, which means that you're going to be making the same promise to the market, the same outcome, result, transformation, right? We're going to promise them they can experience the same change, outcome, result, transformation as other people are promising them. We have to differentiate based on the mechanism. The mechanism is the way your product or service works to deliver the promise, right? It's the reason why your product or service is able to deliver on the promise, right? On the transformation. Now,
so it's kind of like everyone's talking about like this end result, but it's very difficult to say, hey, we have a unique end result.
Yeah.
But now we're going to say the way that we get to that unique that end result is somehow more appealing to our prospect.
You got it, and which we'll talk about in just a second. Spot on. You got it, right? Look, the example that I give all the time was, right, there was a time when the very first fat burner, like the pills that people take to speed up their metabolism, to lose weight. There was a time when, right, somebody was the first to introduce fat burners. And all they had to say at that time was, take this pill and you'll lose weight, because nobody else had made that promise before. That promise in and of itself, take this pill and, right, I could take this pill and lose weight. That was the point of differentiation. They didn't have to say anything else. They didn't need any big ideas. They didn't need any crazy, mechanisms, because the promise was different from what others had done before. Well, the moment that other companies came along and began to knock it off, which happens in every marketplace that goes through that maturity cycle, your message has to evolve, because what was once a point of differentiation may no longer be. Hence, today, if the three of us got together and came out with a fat burner and we tried to market it based on, take this pill and you'll lose weight, I don't think we're going to do very well, right? Like we're gonna struggle, right? There was a time when that was like work like gangbusters. Today, not so much. Why? Because of what the market has heard and seen, meaning that what was once a point of differentiation no longer is. Now, I want to be clear about something. I want everybody to listen to me and get this, because this is really the whole reason why we are trying to, or why we do differentiate. If you do not differentiate your promise, meaning you're promising the same thing that others are, and you do not differentiate in your mechanism, meaning how your product or service works to deliver that promise, all you've done is allow for the commoditization of your product, meaning now your product is a commodity. Now your pricing is determined by the marketplace, because if your product works the same way everything else does, and it delivers the same result the way everything else does, why would anybody in their right mind pay you more for yours? You've allowed it to become a commodity. We never want to ever market and sell pure commodities, because you end up being price shopped. You have no, or it's very difficult to create urgency in driving the sale. It becomes extremely difficult to have any kind of compelling marketing argument. How do you prove that yours is superior? You don't, right? Like, the whole thing falls apart when your product is viewed as a commodity. And so the way today, to just get to the end for time purposes, to skip to the tip, is like, look, today it's okay to promise the same result. Like, it's fine. You can learn from your competitors. Part of the examination, the research process, is seeing what it is that your competitors are saying. Look for trends among your competitors. Remember, by the way, a competitor is anybody that is selling a solution that addresses the same problem you do. It's not just, so like, if you're a chiropractor, right? Remember, people are let's say people are coming to you because you got low back pain. Well, anybody and everybody that promises to alleviate low back pain is a competitor for you. In-home inversion tables, massage therapy, physical therapy, personal trainers, all of those that are promising that they can help alleviate low back pain, they are a competitor to the chiropractor. Why? Because people don't buy products and services because they want the product and service. They buy the product and service because they want the result, the transformation, the outcome, right? So we could learn from competitors when we're doing our examination, our research. We can learn, we can see what kind of trends, like what promises are we seeing, and we could take that, right? So we're going to use this promise, this big, bold, audacious, true, and believable promise of result, and then we are going to find our unique mechanism. That mechanism, the unique mechanism, is how your product or service uniquely works to deliver that result. And unless you are selling a pure commodity, you can find and identify the unique mechanism. There's multiple types, and we don't need to get into that. That's not important. What is important is recognizing that once we've identified the unique mechanism, once we've determined that we're going to differentiate with our unique mechanism, with how our product or service uniquely works to deliver the promise, the aim of creating a compelling marketing message, which was your original question, it seems like we've gone like I've taken you guys on an absurd adventure just to get to this point. That our job at that point is to prove that this mechanism is not only different from what it is that you've experienced before, what it is that you're familiar with, what it is that you've tried before, but that this unique mechanism is superior to every other mechanism, method, process, framework, system out there for delivering the result. It's not enough to just be different. We use the difference to get attention. We use the superiority of the mechanism to generate the conversion. That's how you're able to, and I want you to picture this, right? I want you to just think about this for 1 second. So, number one, I'm able to, when we follow this, when you guys follow, when we follow this approach, and we introduce to the market, we basically go to the market and for lack of a better phrase, and say, I've got a new and different way for you to experience XYZ results, for you to lose weight, for you to do whatever. Right? I've got a new and different way. In this way, right, it's very different from what you're probably familiar with. Here's how this is different. Here's how this works. Here is what makes this so superior at producing faster results or more reliable results or more consistent results or whatever, right? Here's what makes this superior. Now, what I'm doing is, I want you to get this. I'm laying out an argument that proves that this mechanism that I'm introducing them to, I'm saying there's a new and different way for you to lose weight. It's totally different from everything that you're familiar with. It's not only different, it's far better. And let me tell you why. Let me show you. Let me prove this to you. And then boom, 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 boom. Here's why. And here's why it's easier. Here's why it's faster. Here's why it's more consistent, right? Now, all of this time, I'm talking about the unique mechanism. I'm not talking about my product. I'm not talking about my service. I'm not talking about my offer. I'm talking about this mechanism, and I'm educating on this mechanism. I'm educating the prospect on the fact that it's different and superior, and I'm showing why. So I'm teaching, but I'm teaching in a way that gets buy-in on the mechanism, right? So that by the time I am done with that marketing portion, remember, I'm not talking about my product. I'm not talking about the features, the advantages, the benefits. I'm talking about the mechanism. When I am done, I have led the prospect to see the mechanism as superior, therefore to want the mechanism, not my product yet, right? But the mechanism. At which point, when I segue into the offer, which is now the fulfillment, which is right. They get the unique mechanism when they take advantage of the offer. They get the unique mechanism inside the product, inside the service, inside the software, right? So by the time I'm done getting them to see the unique mechanism as superior, they want it. I have perfectly set up the sale for the offer, and I've done it with education by introducing something new and different, leveraging a strong killer point of differentiation, and it's just a beautiful thing in motion. It really is when done right.
That's amazing.
Would it be
just dissecting on this, on the mechanism? Would it be fair to say then that the critically important part behind the unique mechanism is that a lot of your audience, a lot of the market has tried and previously failed at a lot of other solutions. And so for you to come out with something that is the same as those, they're already just going to discredit. It's like we had a laugh and joke earlier. People say, oh, Facebook ads don't work. Direct, copy doesn't work, all this kind of stuff. They're going to just discredit you straight away if you fail to have that unique mechanism. Would that be fair?
Yes, you're absolutely right. The other thing is this, and I believe it originates with Dan Kennedy, and then Russell Brunson has really shared this, really brought this to the marketplace. The idea of Dan Kennedy used to talk about it as improvement versus replacement. Really, right? Improvement versus replacement. And the reality is that with the unique mechanism, you are right. You're like you shared, you're recognizing that they've heard it, they've seen it, They've been inundated with it. There's YouTube videos on Facebook ads. There's right. So if you come out, first of all, it is very, very difficult to try to market successfully based on being better, right? Like just being better, right? Like, because first of all, as consumers, right? Like, I fully expect you to tell me yours is better, right? Like, no one's coming out right in their marketing like we're third best in terms of solutions, in terms of quality. We're like a solid 3, right? Like, no one's doing that. You know what I mean? And so, right. So how do you, like, you're saying something that, first of all, isn't really tangible? Because, like, what does better mean? Right. And if you said we're better because we are, we produce faster results. Well, the very first thing that the market wants to know is how. Yeah. That's mechanism, right? How? What do you mean? You produce faster results? How? Right. We can't just trust me. Trust me. We produce faster results, like, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
go ask my mom. She said,
yeah, so. Like, seriously, right? And so, right, that's where you get into, and so, yes, they've tried it, they've heard it, they've seen it. They're not looking for more of the same. Also, they don't want improvement because most people just don't have the self-confidence in themselves, right? Like, it's like the belief, there's this weird belief, right? That, let me scrap this. Like, I just need a new thing, man. Right. Like, it's not, I don't need to fix it. I don't want to, I just replace it. Like, and so there's that combination at play, in the unique mechanism. And you're actually getting into something too, that's kind of is a little advanced, but the beauty too with the unique mechanism, and I want to say one other thing also about this, because I think this is important for your listeners, but the beautiful thing about the unique mechanism is that we're also able to prevent this categorization, meaning, like, what we don't want to have happen. And I first learned this from, like, a gentleman by the name of Bill Bonner, founder of Agora newsletter publishing company. And he like, I learned this idea that, like, you don't want them to be able to say, oh, I know what he's talking about. Like, oh, he's talking about Facebook ad. Like, he's, like, I don't want to say anything that makes, like, right. Because we as human beings, like, once we're able to put it into a bucket, we're like, curiosity's gone. Like, we're able to categorize it. And so we're looking to kind of to prevent that. Certainly early in the campaign, certainly like in the lead, the first 300, 400, 500 words, we're certainly looking to prevent that categorization, and the unique mechanism helps to do that. One thing that I want to say that I mentioned is, and this is really important, and this is near and dear to my heart, that everybody listening gets this, that so as the idea of the unique mechanism has become more and more popular, and the idea of a mechanism really originates with Gene Schwartz. I'd love to take credit for, I could take credit for just slapping the word unique in front of it. Other than that, I've got zero. I can't claim anything. But as it's gotten more popular, there's this weird, and listen to me with this, there's this another weird behavior where folks think the magic in the unique mechanism is the name. Meaning they think that if I just refer to my thing, my approach, my framework as some weird name, this is the Todd method, right? The Todd method, right? Like, I took the typical Facebook advertising stuff and I just decided to call it the Todd method. And every time you say it that way, you have to say the Todd method. You have to say it very like, right. And they think that that's the magic. And I'll tell you this, that yes, that will work or can work to get attention. But when they get to the marketing argument portion of their marketing message, where they are then supposed to prove what makes this mechanism superior to the other mechanisms out there, which is critical to making the sale, right? It's critical to making the sale. Just being different is not enough. You could have a different method and your different method sucks. Right? It's different, it's different, but it's terrible. It's different, but it doesn't work that good. So different is just what gets the attention in the beginning of the campaign, but then you've got to prove that your mechanism is superior. Well, when those people take their ordinary approach and they slap a fancy pants name on it, I call that a faux mechanism, because it's not really a unique mechanism. They have not done the work, or what I call the interrogation. They haven't interrogated their product to find out what does make this superior. Right?
There's no substance to it.
No substance. There is no, they have not thought about it. They haven't dug it out. And yet it's there. They just have to do the work, because when you are an expert, a coach, a consultant, an agency, you've chosen to do things a certain way. Right? You have a process. I know, James, you've got a crazy dialed, unbelievable process for running your business, just nailing everything, right? That's done for a reason. There's a reason why you have folks, do X first, do Y second, do in this order at this time, and not right. There's a reason why you do it that way. That reason, forget what those reasons are. That stems from the fact that you believe and know that that's best.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't create a framework and you're like, this is probably the fourth best. You know what I mean? But let's do it anyway. Right? You're doing it. You're following it because you believe it's the best. The key is getting clarity on why. Why does this work? Why does it produce the results? Why do we do it in this order? Why do we exclude these steps? Why do we do this here? Why do we do this once a week? Right? All of those kind of things. You're interrogating the product and the way it works. And based on that, you're able to find here's why I can say this is superior. Here's why, right? And so I always say to clients when, why is yours the best? And they're like, some new clients will be like, I don't really know. And I say, well, why should somebody choose yours? And they're like, I don't really know. I'm like, well, don't write a single word of marketing, because you have that, until you have that answer, right? If you don't know, how do you expect to convince somebody else? My gosh. So does that make sense?
That's so good. That's so good. Yeah. I think, and it's funny too, because I think when people talk about messaging, they're not thinking about it like this. They're thinking about, well, what's the copy on the page, and what's the, what's the headline and all this other stuff. But this is so much deeper than that, right? It just it really gets to the core, and it's easy to see when you think about messaging this way, why most marketing campaigns don't work.
Yeah. Because
people really haven't gone and dug deep to figure this piece out. Right.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, what Peter Drucker said, the goal of marketing is to make sales superfluous. Well, by not doing this, you put so much heavy lifting on sales.
Yep.
Right. Because then it has to be you got all this dancing around and trying to figure things out. Yeah. It's absolutely amazing.
And you know what to add to that, and you guys are you're obviously rock stars. And so you guys, you totally get it. Right. And you're right. Look, this is where it kind of introduces another kind of mistake. I don't know if we could call this a tip. This is a tip. This is what not to do. So yeah, it is a tip. Yeah. So, right. It's when you don't have a unique mechanism, or you haven't interrogated it, so you really don't know. Or you got just a weak idea for your marketing, right? That's when these marketers, in order to try to make their marketing message sound exciting, that's where the puffery, the hyperbolic language comes in, right? That's where we're using the jealously guarded, explosive, steroid-like results, right? That's when, right? Because the idea is ordinary. There's no unique mechanism, and you're relying now on this puffery, and then it comes off ridiculous. And so, the beauty is that at maybe on a different episode, we'll talk about the idea, but when you've got an idea, when you've got a good idea, a solid marketing idea, and you've got a unique mechanism, and you understand what we talked about today, being able to prove that it's superior, the beauty is that you're able to do that with clear and simple language, right? Like, again, it's the magic isn't in like the language, like, let me string together, like, like I'm going to cast a spell on you with my excessive adverbs and adjectives. Like, it doesn't work that way. And so, again, when you don't have that good idea or you don't have a unique mechanism, these guys are forced to, like, unless I use this flowery language, this exaggerated language, the whole thing is going to suck,
Yeah, and I feel like that's almost insulting to the prospect.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
where it's like,
because it's like, look, but even with clients, like I tell them, I'm like, look, this is number one. Here's a tip, right? Number one, don't think like a copywriter. And I love copy. Like, oh my gosh, I love copy. I love the classics on my bookshelf. Like, I love it. But here's the thing. Don't think like clients, like student marketers, entrepreneurs, they'll put on their copywriter cap and like they're jealously guarded, steroid like. And I'm like, if you were sitting down at a bar with a friend and right, would you be like, oh, jealously guarded, steroid like explosive growth for your right? Your friend would slap you in the face, right? And so why would you write it that way?
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? So like, don't write it like you're trying to make it sound good with the words that you're using.
Right.
When really, when you start with a good idea, you got a mechanism and you've done the work to find out, to see why it's superior. Let it shine through. One of my mentors, Mark Ford, he just drilled in to me this idea of clarity over creativity. When it comes to marketing, messaging, clarity over creativity. Be clear, simple, easy to understand language, right, is much more important than creativity. Creativity in this context being like, I'm going to write copy. You know what I mean? Like, and so, and I could say all this with this kind of passion because I made all these mistakes. Like I wrote the steroid-like explosive growth like early on. And so that's why I can talk about it.
Yeah, it's so good. Dean, I don't even know what to say. You have a question right now? I'm like, I'm sitting here just like, this is such solid gold.
I feel like we had a year's worth of tips in the last like 45 minutes.
Yeah. We're like, hey, Todd, bring the tips. And he's like, all right, here's my machine gun full of tips. You guys ready?
I kind of rocked up today hoping Todd was just going to say, well, if you change the color of the order button, things are going to change for you.
That was the next, that's coming, right? It's
right? Too soon. I've spoiled the surprise.
Yeah. Write this down. Hex code 0.
He's like, all right, so all of that, the only thing that's more important is the color of the order button.
Yeah, that's it. Is that you use a border of 2 pixels gray.
Right. Yeah, there you go. That's it.
Oh
the biggest tip of all. Well, and but that, we joke about that, but that is the difference between these tactics that people are just trying like over and over and over and over and never getting anywhere. And they're like, oh, maybe the order button's the wrong color. Maybe like, maybe the font's not the right font. Like all these different things when all of it is just like, nobody cares unless they really understand how the thing you're going to give them is going to help them get what they want. And with this unique mechanism, it's like, if you really think through that and you have a defensible, unique mechanism, then you're really on the path to something.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not to take anything away from optimization, like, look, button, like, not to take anything away from that. But and there's value in that, right? At the right time when you're incrementally looking to improve the performance of the page. You're not going to take a loser and turn it into a winner with optimization, right? I've never wanted to buy something and saw the color of the button and said, "Oh, forget this." Right? Never. Never was I like, this is ridiculous. This is purple. Really? Like never. And so to me, it's right. It's the little things like, incremental improvements potentially, but that's not, again, another lesson that I learned early on was, focus on the things that scream, not the things that whisper. The offer, right? Like these are things that the offer, the lead, the first 350, 400, 500 words of a campaign, the idea, these are things that can make or break campaigns. Like Mark Ford used to say, he would say, if you're going to test something that's got the potential to double response. Right. Don't, and today there are people that are like, it increased, 2%. And I think that's great. That's great. But I would rather I'd rather have 9 out of 10 tests produce nothing, but have one that doubles conversions. I'll take those all day. And so I'd rather focus on the things that scream rather than the things that whisper.
Yeah, it's so good. I think, it's like the whole, if the cake doesn't taste good, it doesn't matter what icing you put on it.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Yeah, that's so awesome. So we got to wrap up here. Unfortunately, I could keep talking with Todd, for like, I don't know, days, I'm sure at least. Todd,
we could just kind of keep going and see how long Todd stays.
Oh, you don't want to, I told you, I'm good at one thing, right? And yeah.
All right, hang on. I'm gonna clear out the next 3 days on my calendar. So Todd, there's guaranteed to be people listening who are like having light bulbs going off and just like ahas. People want to find out more about you and your programs and your trainings, all that stuff. Like where should they go and check you out?
You could go to learnfromtodd.com if you want to speak to somebody on my team. You could find us on Facebook. I think it's Todd Brown Marketing. You can find me on Instagram. Any one of those, and you'll come into our world. And awesome. Any one of those.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, this has been a real pleasure. Dean, any parting shots from you?
No, just to say thanks to Todd. Like you say, this has been an incredible show. Just so much there. I imagine there's people walking away now about to go back and start correcting a few things that they've missed. So, appreciate you sharing all that.
I hope. My biggest fear always is that somebody's like, the heck with this, like the heck with it. It sounds crazy. It sounds a lot more it sounds a lot more crazy than what it really is. And so hopefully people listen to this more than once, and then certainly with you guys continue to tune back in more and more to get the foundational principles, man. You could do it. You could do it. I don't care what product or service you're selling, assuming that you're not selling, a pure commodity like a gallon of gasoline. And even then we could probably do something crazy. Right. You can do this. And so don't let me scare you off.
No, I think quite the opposite. It's like,
yeah, I agree.
Everything feels big and overwhelming and complicated until somebody's like, all right, you know what? 80% of your success is going to hinge on like these few fundamental things. And I really feel like that's what we got today was like, here's some of the big things that you really need to keep in mind, avoiding the mistakes that we talked about at the beginning, and then figuring out how to really amp up your marketing, not your sales, your actual marketing. Yep. By digging into what's most important. So this has been absolutely amazing. Thanks so much for being here, Todd. We're going to wrap it up here. Thank you to all our listeners for being here with us. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure you check out all of our episodes at justtipshow.com. This is James P. Friel signing off with another episode. Me and my esteemed co-host, Mr. Dean Holland. We'll talk with you guys later. See you, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Just the Tips, where we believe business should be profitable and fun. For show notes, links, and other information on our guests, visit justthetipsshow.com. For more information on how to connect with Dean Holland, visit deanholland.com. And if you'd like to go from being a hustling entrepreneur to an effective CEO, capable of running your company without being stuck in the day-to-day, visit me for free training and resources at jamespfriel.com. Our theme music is Happy Happy Game Show by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license.